swinging, and I can now get up and down from a chair without bursting into tears. So, what we'd like to do to start with tonight is we'd like to hear a little. We've had you on the show before, but again, hopefully new viewers are watching all the time. So, if you could just give us a little introduction of who you are, who you're standing for, and where you're standing.
Okay, so my name's Stephanie Callaghan. I'm the SNP candidate for in Bellshill constituency. If I'm successful, actually, I'll be the first to represent this constituency. And I live out in Hamilton. Do you want to know a bit more? I'm a councillor just now as well. I'm a councillor in South Lanarkshire. I cover the Hamilton North and East area. I live here, I work here. I went to school in this constituency as well, so always been around here, and it's where I choose to bring my own kids up too. So very much rooted in this community.
So why become an MSP?
Why become an MSP? Well, to be quite honest with you, I never ever had any ambition to go into politics. My background, I've done a lot of different work. I've worked in pubs, I've worked as a shop manager, but really most of my career I kind of spent working with young people on employability training and doing project management. That extended as well to younger kids too, so 13 to 16-year-olds who had social or academic problems at school. I also had training staff. I had long-term unemployed people that would come in and work alongside the training staff, and they would do a teaching assistant qualification, and arranged a guaranteed interview scheme for them at Glasgow City Council at the time there. I was working out in Drumchapel, worked out in Lanarkshire doing stuff like that as well, and then did employability programmes for kind of like older people and stuff too. So really, I took a break from work when I had my youngest child. I've got 3 kids. I've got a 15-year-old that's sitting there in Nat5s just now, so I know how stressed out all us parents are. I've got another child in first year of high school, and then I've got my youngest child is in primary 6 just now as well. So when she was born, she wasn't very well. She had terrible reflux and screamed for 20 hours a day, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that there. So I stayed off work with her for a wee while.
Just to cut in there. So with your 15-year-old, will they be, do you know if they'll be sitting their exams this year?
Right, well, they're not doing exams this year. That's been confirmed quite a while back there. So it's continual assessment, really, is what they're doing. Yeah, they're getting wee tests and stuff at school, but it's kind of continual assessment. But while I was off is when the independence referendum happened, so I expected to be a no voter in the referendum, but thought, you know, you have to have a wee look at what's out there and just confirm that to myself. But it didn't quite turn out that way. I ended up you know, looking at it and researching both sides of the argument for 3 or 4 months before I decided I am absolutely a yes supporter, and persuaded all my family, and then went along to a yes meeting, and from there on it just absolutely took off. So before I knew it, the referendum was here. I joined SNP just after the referendum in October 2014. Joined my branch exec the same year as well, before Christmas was even up. And then by January 2016, I was first elected to South Lanarkshire Council. So quite crazy. Re-elected in 2017 too, with a lot more women at the council as well, which has made a really big difference actually. It was a huge proportion of older retired white men. We've had a lot more women come through. We're still not anything near 50-50 where we should be, because you do really need that balance there. But the change it's made, it's just changed the conversations at the table. It made things very different. So with COVID striking as well, we're in administration at South Lanarkshire Council, so I'm a member of the Cabinet, I'm a member of the Executive Committee, the kind of most senior overarching committee in the council there. So we've been basically, working in the council can feel like wading through porridge sometimes, trying to change things, or treacle, I should say. But actually, we've had to change everything, and we've had to change everything immediately, and then we've had to change it again within weeks. So we've been making policy, implementing that policy, and we've also had to take on new roles, so really looking out for people, getting food delivered, getting medicines delivered to people, bringing all our community groups together and kind of working with them. So I suppose really it's grown out of that as well, actually doing that stuff and doing a lot of that policy work and thinking, I really want to make a difference. And for Holyrood this year, we're going to need people that are prepared to really roll their sleeves up and get stuck in and get the job done, not kind of swanning about going, oh, guess what, I'm an MSP. So it's going to be good, hard work that's going to be needed at Holyrood. And I'm up for it and I'm willing. And I think I've got the knowledge and experience to do well and really make a contribution there and change people's lives.
So what are the local issues that are affecting Bellshill and Uddingston?
So the local issues are, I suppose, but we're similar to a lot of places right across this country. Poverty is a huge issue. COVID and Brexit both have really, really exacerbated that. So there's a huge amount of inequality. There's a huge gap there. But I think if there's been any silver linings from COVID, then maybe one of the things is the fact that it's been quite a good leveler. People who thought they were completely secure in their jobs and their roles in society have all of a sudden found that, tragedy can strike anyone at any point in time and it's absolutely out with your control. And there's been that kind of understanding and recognition that we all need to support each other and care for each other and look after each other. And when things do get difficult, what we need to do is pull each other back up and help each other back up. So I think that's made quite a difference. Jobs clearly as well is a big issue locally. The Scottish Government are looking at investing in green jobs, so they're looking at training up people for decent wages who are going to be coming out there and actually going to be bringing our house into line with green policy as well, improving our heating systems and things. So you're getting a double-sided effect, if you like, there as well. You're getting that training, that investment in jobs, and you're also improving your homes as well. Looking as well at our NHS.
When you say about the Brexit thing, though, that has already happened. There's not much.
Yep.
There's not much the SNP or anyone in Holyrood can do about Brexit now. Really, it's gone through.
Absolutely not. But by the same token as well, it's making an impact, and it's going to continue to make an impact on people's jobs, on people's businesses. It's going to continue for quite a time to come. That we've not seen the end of Brexit, if you like. Brexit has only just begun. It's right at the very start. Employers and small businesses are in a position just now where they're fighting to keep their heads above water. And we need to see where that goes, because not all of those businesses are going to be able to do that, and it's our job to make sure that as many as possible do it, and where that's not possible, that we're opening up new opportunities, that there's investment in retraining, which is already lined up in the programme for government, that we're making that investment in people, because at the end of the day, we hear so much talk, especially just now from the Tories, about the economy. It's the economy that's important. We need to look after the economy. But they seem to completely forget that actually the economy is there to provide for the people that live here. That's what economies are for, in and of themselves. They're absolutely nothing. It's about actually providing.
I think some would also argue that from the unionist side of the campaign, there's a lot of people who are saying that we shouldn't go into another independence referendum till the economic effects of the pandemic are over, or the economic effects of Brexit are over. We shouldn't be going into an independence referendum. And then there's some on the yes side that are saying that we need to have an independence referendum so that we can countermand these problems that are affected from the COVID recession and from the Brexit recession. So where does the SNP lie in that, in terms of a second independence referendum?
A second independence referendum is absolutely central to what we're fighting for at this election. So this election for me, it's not just about me winning this seat for Uddingston and Bellshill area. This is about this, the SNP getting the majority of the vote nationally in Scotland, because getting the majority of the vote nationally in Scotland just shifts the power absolutely completely. We're looking for a referendum, and we're looking for it absolutely in the first half of this Parliament. I'm hoping in the very early first part of this Parliament, and taking that forward, because it's vital that we're able to make these decisions. Seriously, who do we want to be in control of the decisions and the choices Scotland are making? Absolutely, it needs to be Scotland's people and Scotland's government, and not Boris Johnson.
Now, there's obviously the issue that it's been quite publicly announced that the Section 30. Now, how will an SNP government get a Section 30?
Well, as far as the Section 30 goes, I think they're doing absolutely the right thing, continuing to push for a Section 30. I think doing anything else at this point absolutely lets the Tories off the hook. Now, saying no to the SNP is something very, very different from saying no to the majority of people in Scotland, the majority of voters in Scotland. And I would also say as well, we got some indications of this back in 2019 in the December election for MPs to Westminster. Even after that election, you had people, for example, like Councillor Alison Evison was the very first person to come out on Twitter. She's actually the chair of COSLA as well, which is the kind of overarching for all the councils across Scotland. So she's the chair of COSLA, so a very important Labour Party member coming out and saying, you know, if the people for Scotland vote to have another referendum, then it must be their choice. That must be allowed to progress. After that, you had Monica Lennon, you had Jed Killen, all sorts of people like that coming out and saying exactly the same thing. So it won't just be the SNP, it would just be the majority of voters in Scotland. And let's face it, Scotland don't really like getting told, no, you can't do that. If we voted for it, and we've also got other people from other political parties are not going to be in a position where they can really sit there and say, no, this should not happen. It's absolutely inevitable, if you ask me. And I think the other thing is, at an international level too, everyone's eyes are on us. And what we're doing is we're going and banging on the doors. We're banging on the doors. We're banging on every door to say, find a route to independence, and every single time that door is getting slammed in our face. So if Boris Johnson does then continue to say no, that's when we go forward with it, and it's up to him if he wants to come ahead and challenge us in that and take legal action.
That's what I was going to get to. The point is, because basically Boris Johnson will ignore it. I know that we talk about pressure from other political parties, but basically Labour have a new leader in Scotland with Anas Sarwar, who says he'll oppose another independence referendum. So again, you've got Labour and the Tory party in Scotland opposing another referendum to the point of getting rid of candidates that even mentioned that they would support a referendum. So that's not going to happen. So is there a plan B now in force for the SNP when I'll give you the courtesy of saying if Boris Johnson says no to a Section 30?
So, yep, basically the situation you're in is where either way, Boris Johnson either has to be forced into the position, we're backing them right into a corner in this, he either has to come to the position where he says, do you know what, I can't any longer say no to it. Either that, or he has to be put in the position where he has to be seen to be saying no to that. And I think that's a really, really, really important point. I don't think he should be allowed off the hook in that. He has to be in a position where he is publicly saying no when the people of Scotland have actually voted for that by a majority. I mean, it's utterly undemocratic. It's people across the world are just absolutely appalled at his behaviour.
To be fair, he's not one that seems to have any level of embarrassment issue. So basically, saying no to Scotland, if Scotland returned 129 pro MSPs for independence and independence got voted through 80% share of the vote, Boris Johnson could turn around and say, no, you're not going to have a referendum, because basically I won't lose my government by denying Scotland democracy. Voters in England and voters in Wales will not care what Boris Johnson does in Scotland, and always has been such, because the Tories since the 1950s traditionally have done absolutely terrible in Scotland. It hasn't really mattered what people vote for in Scotland. It doesn't really decide the Westminster election. So a Tory government doesn't need Scottish votes. So he doesn't have to care about it. Can you get where I'm going with that?
Yeah, so I think basically what you're saying is that they can just say wheeshed and pay absolutely no attention whatsoever, and that absolutely nothing is going to happen, in which case, you know, you're thinking, so how do we eventually get there? I think it is about the fact that if he's not prepared to go forward with it, that we go ahead with it. Nicola Sturgeon has already said that's what she'll be doing. She's already put forward, the referendum bill. She's already put forward legislation. There's already been decisions around, the who has the power to what the question is that will be asked, etc. there as well. So there have been a lot of steps made, and they are steps that have been supported in the Scottish Parliament, not just by the SNP, but also by others as well. But I do think you do the people down south a bit of an injustice, Martin, because as far as I'm concerned, this has nothing to do with Scots being better than English people. I've got family that live down in England. I lived down in England myself for a few years as well. And
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm
when
just
you've
saying...
got a majority vote, if Boris Johnson is going against the majority vote in Scotland, I do think a lot of people in England would have something to say about that as well. I do think that would have an impact on people that do perhaps consider voting Tory at the moment there.
Well, you also got to remember, though, that a lot of people south of the border are fed a news outlet. When you hear people talking about Scottish independence, it's fed the idea that Scotland is subsidised. Westminster pays for all the free prescriptions. So basically, to the rest of the UK, Scotland is painted as something that is subsidised by the rest of the UK. So again, there is that media problem as well, that it will be spun in terms of it's just separatists trying to stir up things. And that's what I was trying to get at. It's not a vote loser down south.
Mel, I'm not sure that I would agree with that.
Well,
I'm not sure I'd agree with that.
Someone in
If you're
London's
talking
not
about
going to
this,
care.
well, do you know there's an SNP branch in London, Martin?
Yeah.
Quite a busy wee branch, actually.
Yeah, but the point is, they didn't care when Scotland was dragged out of the EU. There was no big uproar. Boris Johnson got voted straight back in with an increased majority.
I think as well you do see indications that opinions are changing. You do see a lot more people saying, oh, that's absolutely not fair. And I think having a vote where you have a majority of a country, they had the excuse when they talked about the referendum that was a UK-wide vote. They don't have that excuse to fall back on in this situation. This is a vote for the Scottish Parliament by the Scottish people, and we need the power in our hands. It is our decision. That decision belongs to nobody else, not to Nicola Sturgeon, not to Boris Johnson, not to anyone. It's absolutely our right to reach that decision ourselves and to decide to put Scotland's future in Scotland's hands. Absolutely it is.
Now, Indy Ref 2, is it dependent on the SNP getting a majority, or is it dependent on being a pro-independence majority?
Well, what I would say in that is, what is it that Westminster are most scared of? I mean, already you're hearing it. They're absolutely terrified of the SNP getting a majority government. That's what they're really, really frightened of. The last time we were a minority, it dilutes our power. The best thing that we can possibly have is a majority SNP government. That's the biggest battering ram that we've got, and I think that's the most important thing that we look for. It gives the legitimacy there that they try to say just now is lacking.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, so if another pro-independence party gets 15 seats and the SNP falls short of the majority, and that party turns around and says we want an independence referendum because we had it in our manifesto, that's what we want, and we put it before Parliament, the SNP would have no choice but to back that, surely.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. Of course. I would like to think the SNP would be in there. First of all, it's going to be in both their manifestos quite clearly. So, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what I was getting at. It's in terms of, because let's face it, and this is where it gets down to the SNP 1 and 2 is being pushed very hard now, as it should be. You're a political party and you want to win as many seats as you possibly can. And you want to get an overall majority in government. The issue being is, and you'll see that, you'll know yourself, you've seen in the papers where it's a lot of things about gaming the system. And in fact, the fellow from Abolish Holyrood was on and talking at length about gaming the system. That's because, in essence, the D'Hondt system is kind of a rigged system. The chances of getting a majority are very, very slim. The fact that we've only ever had one majority in government since the inception in 1999 of the Scottish Parliament shows you that it's incredibly tricky to get a majority government. Would you agree with that?
So, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but what you end up with is you end up with a situation where you've got people, and quite often the same people. On one hand, you've got these people saying, do you know what? The SNP are going to walk it. They're going to win all the constituency seats. Now, you cannot take that for granted. And on the other hand, you've got these people saying, oh, you know, you can't get a majority government. And you're thinking, well, which of the two is it? You know, you can't win list seats. Now, the reality of our situation here is, what were we at last time? Last time we got 52.8% the SNP won in the constituency vote in 2016. Now, incidentally, before I even go into that there, last time around in 2016, had everyone who voted SNP with their constituency vote also voted SNP on the list vote, if all those votes had transferred, there would have been a working majority. There would have been an SNP majority in the Scottish Parliament, a working majority of 3 MSPs. So there would have been a majority at that point there. So anyway, 52.8% we looked at Central Scotland last time around in 2016. Now, the figure that we would need to get a list seat would be 54.2% of the vote. So you're looking at that being what, 2.4% difference? So that's really quite a small percentage that you're looking at there. So that even if we won all the constituency seats for this area, if we won 54.2% of the vote on the list, we would get a list seat as well. If we win 60%, we would get 2 list seats. If we win 100%, we'll get all the list seats. So yes, it is set up, it is a difficult system, but it is designed to be proportionate.
Let's be honest here. In an election result, getting over the 50% mark is very, very difficult, because you know there's so many people standing in. SNP is extremely lucky in terms of the yes vote is not split in the constituency vote to any great degree, except usually with, there's a few at the moment that are standing, like the Greens and Scotia Future, that might split the yes vote in terms of the constituency vote. So whereas the unionist vote, is, if you want to call it that, is split between the Lib Dems, Labour and the Conservative Party. So they have a greater split. So it is easier for you to get past that higher percentage threshold in the constituency vote. In the list vote, it becomes more difficult for you because of this gaming the system, as they call it. Which, again, you're every right to do the 1 and 2. That. It seems to me awfully odd when other parties don't push that agenda. You know, I think the Labour and the Conservative and the Lib Dem certainly don't try in really brashly to push that they should vote for them on the constituency and vote somewhere else on the list. They tend to be just vote for us 1 and 2, the same as the SNP. So I'm not saying that's wrong in any way. It's just because it's coming up now. But the D'Hondt system is aimed at adding extra smaller representation. So that's where it comes into it. But I was just wondering, you know, the SNP will have to work, has worked in minority governments for the 2 out of the 3 times they've been elected. So I don't think it's anything new.
No, it's certainly not anything new, but just worth noting as well, supposing every single Tory vote went to Labour in this election, if we were looking at the 2016 results, they still wouldn't catch us in this election, we'd still be ahead of them. So just a wee point to make for the Uddingston and Bellshill seat there, even if they did all get together. So yeah, I recognise what you're saying there. The other thing that you have as well though about, you know, other independence parties, what actually use is a supermajority? Where does it get us? What does it improve? Now, the reason that I think we need a majority and an SNP majority rather than an independent supermajority, I believe an SNP majority is absolutely the most powerful tool. It's the thing that puts most pressure in the Westminster government, and that's why I think, see, regardless of what party it is that you support, That's why I think that is by far the most powerful route to go. Now, if we have a situation where votes are split between other independent supporting parties on the list there, that voting a different party in the list has risks. If the SNP miss out on any constituency seats, then it's much more difficult for them to get those back. If you have, for example, the new party perhaps taking away votes from the SNP and possibly from the Greens as well, that opens the door up for more unionist MPs to come in. So absolutely, voting in the list is not without its risks. And I think that's something that people, very often don't seem to appreciate. But the biggest problem that you've got with looking to get people to change their vote in the list, the biggest problem you've got is voter behaviour itself. That's not how voters behave. The huge majority of voters do not go into detail in their politics. They just don't do it. So even people who are members of the SNP, for example, lots of our members join the party. They're quite happy to pay their direct debit every month because they absolutely support independence. They support the SNP government. They don't open any of their emails from us or read any of their emails or get active. And these are people that are willing to pay out their money for it. It's a very, very, very small proportion of voters who will actually sit down and look at this in enough detail and try to game the system. So they cannot get the numbers that they're going to be looking for, I don't think, in order for them to actually start winning list seats. So all they do is take votes away from the other independence parties. They don't quite make enough of the grade to get a list seat, and that's when you get unionist politicians sneaking in through the back door there and increasing their lot.
Now, obviously, May 21 is not all about independence. There's other issues on the table. We've talked about a few of them in terms of the local issues and things like that, but one that has been making big headlines in terms of the current Scottish Government and things like that, and we did talk about it before when you were on the show before, is the Gender Recognition Act, which is something that, as a white heterosexual male, I feel terrified to talk about in case I get in trouble.
Try being a woman.
Yeah. But that's something that the SNP government is really behind in terms of transgender rights, but there is a big fear about women's rights being eroded from that at the moment. Hence the whole women's pledge and things like that. So, where do you sort of stand on your understanding of the GRA bill at the moment?
So the first thing that I was saying that, Martin, is that the GRA bill isn't on the programme for government this year, so it's not going to be happening this year. There's an awful lot else going on. We've got all the stuff going on with COVID, Brexit, etc. there as well that needs to be prioritised. So it's not actually on the programme for government right now for the coming year. Now, what I would say is, I'm a mum and I've got 3 kids, 3 school-aged kids just now. I don't care who my kids grow up to be. I don't care who they grow up to love. I don't mind whether they're trans, whether they're lesbian, whether they're bisexual. I really don't mind at all, as long as they grow up and they feel happy and they feel secure and they feel confident and they feel free to actually be themselves. That's the most important thing for me. So absolutely, I have complete empathy with trans people. You are looking at a much smaller proportion of people. You're looking at the fact that they can get horrible things said to them, that can be really upset, they can be really marginalised and all the rest of it. But by the same time as well, you have women who have genuine fears too, and those need to be appreciated. I think, on both sides, you're looking at the amount of abuse and domestic violence that goes on towards women just now is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, it's only a proportion of men that carry that out, but the big problem you've got at the centre of things is predatory men, and we should all be on the same side. We should be natural allies as far as women and trans people are concerned, should be natural allies. So it's about listening to everybody's voices, and with the best will and the best legislation in the world, what's really important is that we're talking to each other and that we're taking people with us, and that people aren't feeling divided and split down the middle there, because we really, really, really shouldn't be. So it is all about listening and having those conversations and hearing where people are coming from, and acceptance as well, accepting how people feel, accepting that people have genuine fears. Absolutely.
Because I think the thing is, when I've talked to people about it before, is it's not particularly being against trans people's rights. It's the worry of this whole self ID sort of idea that you can just say that you're a woman, and it's not for trans people that are saying that the trans people are not going to be abusing that. It's more predatory men will abuse that. That's the thing. You've got to make that distinction between people that genuinely want to self-ID as a woman and people that are going to do it for their own ends. So, to me, that's not transphobia. That's you saying that there's a fear of predatory men will abuse this system for their own ends.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with someone that's actually transgender.
And I think what you've got just now is that you've got people on both extremes of this who are shouting and bawling at each other, and you've got everybody else in the middle, who aren't getting a chance to get their say on it there. I think the bottom line is that we need to be talking to each other, and what we need to do are find solutions that everybody is comfortable with. That's what really matters. That's what's really important, where trans people feel safe and where women also feel safe. So no trampling over each other's rights. It's about all looking after each other and everybody being a place where they feel safe.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Stephanie. Have you got a final message to give out to any potential voters in the Bellshill and Uddingston area?
Well, I think, as far as this election goes, I think the SNP really have helped every single family. They've made an impact on everybody with the SNP policies. They've transformed education, they've strengthened the National Health Service, we've got more doctors and nurses per head, more GPs in your surgeries. Per head of population, there's more spent on education, there's more spent on health. Childcare, they've got all the nursery hours that are coming through as well. We've got the Scottish Youth Guarantee that we're looking at too there, where every young person is going to get the chance of employment, training or further education. And I think as well right now with the baby box and stuff too there, but child poverty is going to be a massive issue going forward. And the Scottish Child Payment, as all the different charities are saying, it's just absolutely going to be life-changing for a lot of families. And we're now looking at a situation where we're going to be doubling that if the SNP are re-elected to government. And I absolutely hope that's the case. It's going to be life-changing for families and lifting kids out of poverty. There is nothing more important than that. They're our future.
Well, thanks for coming on, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Well, that was Stephanie Callaghan, a candidate for Holyrood 2021 for the SNP. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll be putting posts up pretty soon when we'll be having our hustings. Yes, that's right. We're going to have our hustings where we'll hopefully have some online candidates actually debating live online. And of course, we'll be asking for you, the viewers, to submit questions to them beforehand. But until next week, good night.